The sky tore open over Los Angeles with a single roar of thunder that split the night into before and after. Lightning arced down in a jagged line and struck with deadly precision, igniting the very heart of Forrester Creations, the private fashion gallery built into the estate, a shrine to over 3 decades of triumph, scandal, love, and legacy. Inside those walls were the stories no press ever printed. Gowns sewn with grief, sketches inked with heartbreak, mirrors that had witnessed declarations of war and surrender between lovers, family, and rivals. And in less than a minute, it was all fire. The alarm triggered instantly. Sirens howled across Beverly Hills. Security lights blinked out. The sprinklers failed, the system shorted by the electrical surge. Smoke consumed the corridors. Flames raced across fabric, mannequins melted into molten shapes, glass cracked and rained down in sheets. It was not just a fire. It was an erasure of memory. A torch held to the past. Unbeknownst to everyone, young Douglas had sneaked in earlier to film a vlog for a digital fashion challenge. The lighting, he said, was perfect. The ambience unmatched. Now his camera lay abandoned on the marble floor, half melted. He was trapped, coughing, barely able to see. His small voice echoed in the roaring blaze. Elsewhere in the chaos, little Kelly Forrester stumbled through the hallways, calling for her father. She had gotten separated from the others during the emergency evacuation. The estate was a maze of smoke and heat, and each hallway looked the same. She ran past portraits, past the model rooms, screaming for help. Inside the gallery, Eric Forrester fought past choking smoke, his eyes red, vision blurred. The flames licked closer, but he refused to turn back. His destination was fixed. A single display case near the center. It held the very first gown he had ever designed for Stephanie, his late wife, his muse, the origin of everything. He couldn't let it burn. Not her dress. Not that symbol. But as he reached for the case, a massive ceiling beam groaned above him. Ridge burst in, grabbing his father by the arm, screaming, "Dad, we have to go." Eric protested, still clawing at the display. That was when the beam gave way. It collapsed on both of them, pinning their legs, burying their exit in rubble. Outside, Brooke, Steffi, Hope, and Bill arrived on site. Smoke poured into the air, turning the Forrester estate into a glowing silhouette. Brooke tried to run in, but firefighters restrained her. That's when the call came over the radio. 2 adult males trapped inside, possible collapse zone. No access. Brooke didn't wait. She broke free, grabbed a spare oxygen mask, and disappeared into the inferno. Inside, the heat was unbearable, the smoke thick like syrup. Brooke found Ridge first, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, his voice hoarse. She helped him sit up, slipping the only oxygen mask over his face. "Breathe," she whispered. "Don't argue. Just breathe." Ridge protested, tried to give it back. She refused. "I'm not losing you. Not now." She turned to Eric, unconscious, face burned, but breathing shallowly. Ridge, using the last of his strength, braced against the beam, trying to free his father. The air was thinning. Brooke collapsed to her knees, dizzy. Then through the smoke came 2 silhouettes, Steffi and Hope. They had forced their way through a broken side entrance, using their memory of the estate to guide them. Hope grabbed a steel rod. Steffi climbed onto the wreckage. Together, without speaking, they leveraged their bodies against the beam. They strained, cried out, pushed with everything they had left. For one unbearable second, it didn't budge. Then it shifted. Eric's body was pulled free. Ridge followed. They stumbled toward the exit as another wall groaned behind them. Overhead, the sound of rotor blades split the air. Bill Spencer, hovering in his private rescue chopper, swung a searchlight directly onto the blaze. "Follow the light," he shouted over the radio. Fire crews surged in. Ropes dropped from above. One by one, the family was lifted out through the glass roof as the final collapse consumed what was left of the gallery. The rescue was a miracle, but the price was clear. By dawn, the fire was out. The estate smoldered. The Forrester legacy lay in ash and ruin. Burnt mannequins, charred sketches, melted spotlights, and silence. Until a firefighter, clearing debris, stopped and crouched. From beneath blackened rubble, he pulled a single unburned sheet. A design sketch preserved against all logic. The lines were sharp, the ink untouched. It was a new design, one not yet announced. One Eric had been sketching in secret since Ridge's death. Its name scribbled in the corner, Phoenix. Word spread quickly. The sketch was framed and placed in the main office, a symbol of survival. But it wasn't just a metaphor. That fire had forced every Forrester to face something real. Douglas had nearly died. Kelly had seen terror in its purest form. Brooke had given her breath for Ridge. Steffi and Hope had moved as one not as rivals, but as daughters of the same house. Bill had used his wealth and access not for leverage, but for rescue. The family gathered that morning among the ash. They stood silent, facing the wreckage. Eric, recovering in a wheelchair, whispered, "We lost the past." But maybe that's what we needed. Ridge added, "We always looked backward. Maybe it's time we design for what's ahead." Hope stepped forward. "No more fighting. No more division. We owe the people who built this brand something better than war." Steffi nodded. "We rebuild. We redesign. We rise." That day, a new direction was forged. Forrester Creations wouldn't live in memory. It would evolve. Eric passed the leadership to Hope and Steffi, joint creative directors. Thomas was brought back in as head designer for men's couture. Zend was promoted to head of innovation. And Brooke, for the first time, stepped out of power willingly. The past had burned, but in the ash was truth. Stephanie's dress was gone. So were the relics. But the values family, fire, ambition remained. And so the Phoenix sketch became more than a symbol. It became the first piece in the next generation of Forrester. A collection born not from rivalry, but from unity. Named Ashes and Thread, it stunned the fashion world upon release. Critics called it raw, emotional, fearless. Sales soared. Awards followed. The brand didn't just survive. It redefined itself. But not all wounds healed clean. Rumors circulated that the fire wasn't just an act of nature, that someone had sabotaged the electrical system, that an old enemy had returned. The footage from Douglas's camera, what little was recovered, showed a shadow crossing the gallery minutes before the lightning strike. Investigations reopened. A list of suspects was drafted. And somewhere far from Los Angeles, a woman watched the news, eyes cold, lips curling into a smile. The fire wasn't the end. It was the first spark. Weeks passed since the night the Forrester estate became an inferno. Ashes and Thread had launched to critical acclaim, the design world hailing it as a resurrection of spirit and artistry, a bold pivot from traditional Forrester glamour to a raw, more emotional minimalism. Yet beneath the global celebration, a darker undercurrent crept through the family like smoke under a door. The fire had not been declared arson. But the investigation remained open, and Douglas's damaged vlog footage had been partially restored. The image was grainy, distorted by heat, but unmistakable, a figure cloaked in dark clothing, entering the gallery shortly before the lightning strike. It wasn't a staff member. It wasn't family. Facial recognition ran cold. But what stood out was the figure's hand, adorned with a single silver serpent ring. A ring last seen in Forrester security footage from years ago, worn by Celia Marneau. The name surfaced in whispers. Brooke recognized it first, whispering it like a ghost story. "She's supposed to be in prison," she said. But Celia was nowhere to be found. Her cell in Marseille had been officially vacated for medical furlough. That furlough was issued 4 weeks before the fire. Steffi refused to believe it. "She wouldn't come back," she told the others. "Not after we exposed her. Not after the fraud." But in her heart, she knew better. Celia hadn't failed. She'd made a point, and now she was ready to finish what she started. The family closed ranks. Ridge, still recovering from his injuries, moved back into the estate. Eric insisted on restoring the gallery, not to what it had been, but to something new, a living museum, blending future innovation with relics recovered from the ashes. Hope doubled security. Thomas resumed therapy. But they all felt it, the tightness, the unseen pressure. And then came the letters. Each member of the family received one. No postmark, no fingerprint, just their name, handwritten in perfect calligraphy. Inside each envelope, the same note: "You rose from the ashes. But not all fires die." The implication was chilling. Celia was back, or someone even more dangerous who had picked up where she left off. Margot, Celia's old accomplice, was released on bail while awaiting trial. She claimed to know nothing. But the fear returned. Then the second strike hit. Forrester's main supplier in Milan abruptly ended all partnerships, citing security concerns. A fabric shipment was sabotaged, dyed the wrong color, and rendered unusable. When Zen dug into the file data, he discovered malware hidden in the design software, a virus designed to auto-leak future collections online. IT traced the digital breach to an unknown node, rerouting through South Africa. Another ghost, Maison Marneau, was still active. The domain had gone dark after Celia's arrest, but a fresh trademark appeared in the EU registry 2 days after the fire. Marneau Studios, a digital-only fashion house launching in 3 months. No names listed, no investors. Just a black screen with white text: "The flame returns." Brooke wanted to take legal action. Hope wanted to go public. Eric refused, insisting they couldn't fight shadows, they needed a strategy. Steffi, fueled by rage and humiliation, proposed they hit first. "If she's relaunching in 3 months, we crush her before then," she said. "We steal her thunder." So they planned the Phoenix Gala, a full-circle event set in New York. A runway show and charity auction where each piece from ashes and thread would be sold to fund youth arts programs, an emotional, public show of resilience and unity. But the plan didn't stay secret. 3 weeks before the gala, a mock fashion site appeared under the name Marneau Underground, dripping with sarcasm and malice. It published confidential photos from the Forrester vault, draft sketches, internal emails, a leaked voicemail from Steffi to Ridge questioning her ability to lead. Even Brooke's therapy transcripts were hacked and posted, word-for-word confessions of regret, rivalry, obsession. The attack was personal, psychological. The family fractured again. Ridge turned inward. Eric suffered another minor collapse. Hope pulled her designs from the gala. Thomas nearly relapsed. The only one who stayed calm was Donna. "This is what she wants," she told them. Chaos. Insecurity. Doubt. "We play her game, we lose." But Celia wasn't done. Days before the gala, a man walked into Forrester HQ. A courier. He handed Brooke a white box and vanished. Inside, a bolt of fabric, soaked in gasoline, with a message stitched in blood-red thread across the silk. "You built your empire in fire. I will finish it in flame." That night, Every fire alarm in the building went off. No flames, no smoke, just the threat. The gala was nearly cancelled. But Steffi, face bruised from a fall she refused to explain, announced, "We go ahead. We show the world we're still standing." The Phoenix Gala opened at a secured venue. Triple bodyguards. No guest list leaks. And yet, as the lights dimmed and the first model stepped onto the runway, a masked figure slipped backstage. Margot, caught by security before she reached the control room, screamed as she was dragged out. "She's not done. You think this is over. You have no idea what she's planning." The show went on. Cameras rolled. Cheers erupted. Donations poured in. But above it all, in a nearby rooftop lounge, a woman watched alone. Her face obscured beneath a wide hat, her fingers draped in silver rings. She sipped champagne, smiled. Celia Marno was not done. She had burned their past. She had fractured their present. Next, she would rewrite their future. One thread at a time.